What is up, everybody? Luke Film Boss here, and today I am back and continuing my MCU movie review series. Today, continuing with Thor Ragnarok. So back in 2017/2018, which was when I watched Thor Ragnarok, I thought it was like one of the best superhero movies, one of the best Marvel movies, one of the best movies ever made. But that was because I didn't really have a lot of movie knowledge. I didn't study film as much then, and I hadn't seen nearly as many movies. Now watching Thor Ragnarok, I'm like, I still enjoy it. It's an enjoyable, good film. There's some quality aspects in there. It's not a bad film by any means, but it's not 9 out of 10 A-list tier kind of stuff. I would say it's a solid B tier film. Very fun, very enjoyable. Has a really good plot, actually. It has consequences, but there's a few things that just don't live up to what I thought it was. It's not this grand epic tale. It's honestly more of a comedy. Well, obviously it was comedy, but I think that comedies have been able to work to where they're actually very deep and meaningful and make me cry like Guardians of the Galaxy does. Those movies are, I think, what Thor Ragnarok was trying to model itself after, was these action sci-fi comedies, but it kind of left out the heart, although it does try. But I think it doesn't quite blend the drama with the comedy in the way that Guardians of the Galaxy succeeded so well. And that's probably the biggest fault of Thor Ragnarok, is sometimes the comedy is just too meta and tries to be too ironic and just ends up feeling out of place. It feels tonally fake in some scenes. Some scenes, the humor actually works very well. I think, honestly, everything that happens on the planet Sakaar with the Grand Master and the Gladiator Arena and all the heart-to-heart that Thor actually has with the Hulk, that segment of the movie is actually really good. It works very well. It's when the movie tries to tie itself back in to the previous Thor films with the Loki stuff works, but not nearly as well as it could have. I definitely liked Loki's inclusion. There's some good moments in here, but honestly, the relationship with Thor and Odin's death and all of that stuff didn't hit as hard as it should have. Asgard felt so much cheaper and like not as grand, not as, you know, epic as the previous two Thor films. And Thor the Dark World wasn't even a good movie, but you still got the same, you got that tone, that feeling that made it feel like this is a sci-fi sort of fantasy epic, whereas this movie, it's like sci-fi uh, satire comedy slash Saturday Night Live skit with a little bit of like, okay, these scenes are good. There's like some shots, like the flashback shots with the Valkyrie and they're trying to fight Hela. Those shots are beautiful. The music and everything, the tone, it just absolutely works in that scene. And that's the biggest thing that I have a gripe with this movie, is it's a little bit tonally inconsistent. Like there's some scenes it's just like, wow, that's actually really good. And then there's other scenes where it's like, that's not as good. It kind of sucks the goodness away from the good parts almost. And then there's other scenes in this movie where it's like, that's really good, but it doesn't have the same tone, or it doesn't mesh well with the other good stuff. And so you have this almost, it's not quite a jumbled mess. It all works cohesively. And I like when movies kind of blend genres, but it has to be done right. Once again, Guardians of the Galaxy is a perfect example of this, whereas Thor Ragnarok, while it's fun, yes, it kind of shoots itself in the foot when it comes to the drama and the emotional core that it's trying to get at. And one of the biggest things is that, rather than, I think, honestly, it really is the writer's fault in this story. And I think maybe it had more to do with Taika Waititi. Everybody back when it came out was like, oh, Chris Hemsworth and all the actors, they improvised and it made it so much fun. It's like, but that's also why there's not as much heart and there's not as much soul here, because yes, the actors did a fine job. They made it funny. They made it entertaining and quippy. But when you get to the heart of it, it makes it tonally inconsistent because I don't think the director really had his hand on the ball. He lets there's there's leeway to where you can let actors do their thing, but as a director, you got to direct them so that it works cohesively in the story. And for the most part, Ragnarok isn't nearly as bad as like Thor Love and Thunder. Ragnarok at least feels at least compatible and at least somewhat consistent with the character of Thor from previous movies like Thor 1, 2, The Avengers. And the plot is a very important piece of the Infinity War saga, the Infinity Saga. And it all happens very naturally and organically from the setups in Age of Ultron. So as a whole, the movie itself isn't bad, just lacking some things. And I think the biggest example of where the writing just doesn't work is that rather than telling the story and having deep, meaningful moments and scenes and exchanges of dialogue where you kind of get the idea of what the movie is trying to say, it just flat out in your face says it like 3 times. Like the point of the movie is like, Asgard is not a place, it's a people. And they say it like 3 or 4 times in like the third act. And it's like, yes, we get it. Like, we're not children here, but I think the movie is honestly trying to, I don't know, it acts like it's for children, even though it has things that are kind of inappropriate for children. So I don't understand why it talks to the audience almost as if we're dumb and we don't know what's going on. And once again, it's only in certain scenes because other scenes are really good and it's like this is how films are supposed to be. And then there's other scenes where it's just like, let's just state like exactly verbatim what the moral of the story is 3 times, just hammer it in. And then towards the end, the scene with Korg where he's like giving his big old speech, he's like as long as the foundations are good, we can rebuild. And then the planet blows up. And he's like, oh nope, those foundations are gone. And like scenes like that was like that shouldn't be a funny moment. Like this place, Asgard, as much as the point is that it's not a place, it's the people, there should be some very heavy feeling, some deep emotion that makes the audience and the people in the movie watching their planet get blown up. It should make them very sad, but the movie makes it into this joke. And it's not like that the entire movie, but that's just kind of the things that just hold this movie back is the insincerity in certain moments, while some of them work very well. Once again, some of the shots and the character development actually works, and characters are fine. They stay in character. But just something about how the movie is written that it just doesn't feel as grand or epic or sincere as it should. Like the previous Thor films, as much as they weren't the greatest thing in the world, I actually still think Ragnarok is the best out of the three, or yeah, the 4 Thor films because of Love and Thunder. I think that Ragnarok is still the best, but it's not the most consistent. Like I can at least respect the other 2 films for having this tonal consistency. And even the first film, it seems like some of the tone is inconsistent because he's like in this fantasy world of Isengard and then he goes down to Earth and he's the fish out of water. But I think it works well. So there are my thoughts on Thor Ragnarok. Not a perfect movie by any means, not a top tier movie. I would give it probably now a solid 85, 8.5 out of 10. Somewhere in that B list area is how I would rank Thor Ragnarok. Thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help you be on the lookout for more videos from Luke Film Boss. Bye.